everyone, welcome to another Random Talk Sunday. I apologize this video will be uploaded late, but unfortunately I was very tired yesterday and was unfortunately not in the video making mood, but now I am totally fine and ready to be caught up on everything that needs to be caught up. So without further ado, let me discuss for this Random Talk Sunday, which I did want to discuss, and that is Oscar night. Yes, Oscar night. Now you might be wondering, well, what does this have to do with love, Michelle? Isn't love supposed to be part of your month? Yeah, but I thought loosely you could say out of all of the award ceremonies that come out around this time of year, and that recognize the achievements of Hollywood and movie making, the Oscars is probably the biggest one. It is for all of those movie lovers out there. It is for all of the people who enjoy the cinema and in particular enjoy movies that were recognized by sort of the Hollywood community as being worthy of recognition. So yeah, really the Oscars are the big night for movie lovers, and it's basically the Super Bowl for the movie fan crowd. So again, it's sort of like the love for that basketball players have for March Madness. It's sort of the same kind of mentality. The people who enjoy entertainment, who enjoy filmmaking, will probably stay tuned to the Oscars. Now, it probably depends, though, too, if you agree a lot with the Oscars. There's been some controversy over the years in regards to the Oscars, because sometimes some films may have been recognized more often so than others, and there might have been biases when choosing the winners over the years. And yeah, I think that's definitely understandable, and I think that's one thing about the Oscars that sort of rubs me the wrong way, especially when they make consecutively somebody the winner and then everybody else comes home as losers. I don't think that's really all too accurate and all that fair, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I think the best person or the best movie or best whoever should win, but at the same time I feel like to say that one movie did so well in all of these different categories, especially when filmmaking is such a very extensive and broad industry, to me that's just kind of like saying, wasn't there some kind of a, was there something going on that made it so that this one particular film sweeps the awards and takes them all? So yeah, I think that's one thing of the Oscars that I did notice that I thought to myself was kind of, I don't know, I don't know why that happens, but again, it does happen more so than not, depending on the year, depending on the films that come out and whatnot. I think in particular this year's Oscars, the 2015, when I'm making this video, were relatively fair. The Grand Budapest Hotel actually won for a lot of like small things, more so than I think any other film did. But at the same time, I felt there was at least some level of various films getting recognized for various things and then ultimately crowning sort of a winner. But at the same time, it didn't feel like one film was just dominating the entire show. So I think the Academy is probably realizing this, and they probably realize it's not good for their ratings either way. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that that I think they noticed apparently this year, because it didn't seem like that they really chose a favorite throughout. Um, but Also, another thing that I noticed too about the Oscars in particular that sort of rubs me the wrong way too is just the over excessive hype that is surrounded by it. Like that somehow, like having an hour's worth of coverage before it even happens, and then interviewing these people, with all of their really fancy dresses and, outfits. I mean, it's nice to see everybody all dressed up and looking fancy, but at the same time, do we really need an hour length or 2 hours coverage beforehand? Do we really need to know all of this information about all of these people that's basically gonna all pretty much, I mean, their whole outlook is probably gonna change after they experience the show, but again, they probably don't have a chance to interview them afterwards because I think they all go and party or something, but still at the same time, it's kind of strange. But yeah, there's just a lot of build up for the Oscars, and I think that's why a lot of movie fans are invested in it, because they know that it's really the night for movies. Um, and Also, the thing about the Oscars as well is that there's, again, the basic awards where everybody is pretty much invested in, which again they don't showcase until pretty much the end of the show, because like anything, they know how they have to play their cards when it comes to the game to keep people watching. And At the same time, though, there's a lot of awards that I feel are kind of um, the same. It's not that I don't want these people to get recognized, but on the one hand, I feel like, for things that nobody was really able to see, especially things like the um, these different kinds of animated shorts that nobody really saw, um, or just random awards in different categories. I think they are getting a little bit more specialized though, um, because again, they do have sort of the awards for people who do like the science and the kind of engineering behind movie making. Um, so they have their own award ceremony. So I think the awards seem to be getting a little bit tighter over the years. It didn't seem like that there was an excessive amount to me, but at the same time, they do give out some things where I go, I've never even heard of these. I mean, I've never seen these. I understand maybe something like foreign film, but just things that, you know, people are not exposed to. At least, even I'm a casual moviegoer and I don't even know a lot of what they were showcasing half the time. So yeah, I think that's just kind of a problem, because it really just sucks out the audience. I mean, especially if they haven't heard of it. So yeah, I feel like, again, if they want to have these things showcased, they should the industry should advertise them more. I mean, it only makes sense if they want to recognize them. So yeah, it is kind of it's kind of odd, but at the same time, it's probably almost an obligation that they have to honor certain people and certain awards. Also, the length is another huge complaint that people have when it comes to the Oscars. Um, yes, I think the length is fairly excessive. I mean, it goes on. I believe it went from 5:30 last night to 9 o'clock. So it was pretty much 3.5 hours long. So it was, or wait, 4.5 really. I think 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. Well, 3.5, yeah, 3.5 hours. And Yeah, when it's 3.5 hours, that's a long time to go through. Luckily, I was able to fast forward a lot of the commercials, but the thing though about the Oscars is that they really try to drag out certain things. For example, this year they had a very excessive amount of musical performances. I don't know why they needed to have all of these different musical performances. It's not the Grammys, you know. It's the Oscars. It's about the movies. Why do you need to have people come up and sing constantly? Although I admit Lady Gaga did a pretty good job. I was surprised. I thought she would come up there and just completely butcher Sound of Music, but luckily she didn't. and she did it justice. But at the same time, it's just there's just some things that don't really need to be part of the show. And I understand they want to make it entertaining. I understand they want to make it engaging for the audience instead of having to listen to who comes up. But I think that gives them all the reasons to showcase more of the film, and honor the actors and stuff. And then they constantly have to, make it so, you know, overly emotional and at certain times I really felt they were kind of pandering to the audience, like, yeah, woo, yeah, we're rooting for you, and yeah, it's like, okay, down, calm down. It's just the Oscars. We just want to hear what the awards are and maybe see some good clips of the films. Like, that's really what people really, I think, would want to watch for when it comes to the Oscars. They don't want to hear these really long speeches about. And some of the speeches that they give, man, they are bad, some of the speeches. They're just either. I understand if there's like an incoherency and even then those kinds of speeches are really charming, but the really annoying speeches where they feel like they have to give this particular message out there, or that they have to, you know I mean, and again, nothing really necessarily to do with the film that they were in, but it's like, oh, I have to talk about this. It's like, you don't have to talk about this. Just say thank you to everybody. Say whoever you love, to say that you love them, and then be done. Like, I mean, there's just sometimes where I feel the speeches are just very like they don't feel really genuine. It's like they're going through a list of different people, and it's like, you don't need to go through a list. You can just say thank you to all of the cast and crew and everybody that was involved making this film. Thank you so much to my family for all their support. I love you all. Thank you. Good night. That's literally all they have to do. And then maybe make some small things about, their film, or about just something relevant. But a lot of the times they put in these irrelevant things in there just to get some message across, when really it's not needed, and it just ends up dragging out the show even more. So, yeah, it's and again, I feel like it's more about ego and not about trying to make an actual genuine speech. So yeah, one thing that's really annoying, and again, all they need to do is just cut a lot of the musical performances and you know, tell people who are literally going on a tangent that, okay, you're done, with your speech. Please leave now. I understand, if someone's actually really genuine, actually giving actual information, yeah, I'd actually want them to stand up and speak. But if there's somebody that's just going on a rampage about things that don't really matter and are not consistent with anything, then I just think it's ridiculous. And it doesn't serve a purpose. So yeah, if you were to take that out, if you told the people who were nominated, okay, make your speech about what you want to say when you win, before you go up there, and it has to be consistent, and you can't, try to, um, go off on a tangent. If they actually prepared and had some preparation, then we would probably get better speeches and we would get a more consistent and interesting show to watch. But apparently they don't do that. And I don't understand why they don't do that, because it would actually give them um, a lot more clarity as far as time wise is concerned. But guess not. But that's one thing that I noticed too, is the length could be cut based upon the speeches as well as the musical performances, and also the bits where they try to be funny, but it's not really all that funny. They could cut that out too. um, and the other things that I've noticed when it comes to the Oscars um, is that overall, it's probably the more glamorous out of the award shows. It's usually where people dress up in the most fancy and yet crazy outfits at times. Um, I don't understand why there's there's like this sense of classiness, but then sometimes the women, they wear like these really, really revealing dresses. It makes no sense to me. I mean, it just looks really bizarre and off, and I've noticed it with other awards too. But I'm surprised at the Oscars. I saw so much just like not covering up. Um, it was just uncomfortable to watch, and you'd think that it would be a little bit distracting to your audience. It just doesn't look classy. It just doesn't look sophisticated. It just makes it look awkward to watch. And yeah, so I that's just something I've noticed with a lot of the Hollywood shows. And again, trying to be funny when really it's not all that funny. Neil Patrick Harris, which I think he was actually a fairly good host, and I think a lot of the Academy Awards are kind of determined on their quality based upon the host, and I thought he did an all right job. Actually, the underwear I think was a little bit too much for me. I just didn't think it was funny. I was just like, oh, okay, he has his underwear. Okay, now that's suddenly funny just because he's only wearing underwear. Only reason that's supposed to be funny. But I mean, when he was doing like little smart little lines, some of them, I was genuinely chuckling at. But I mean, yeah, it's just overall, I think there's this sense of trying too hard sometimes that a lot of the hosts, I think, fall into. They try way too hard to please the audience, and it doesn't come off well. And again, that moment I think for Neil Patrick Harris was when he did the underwear thing. That was just, yeah, you're trying way too hard. You're trying way too hard. And I think Seth MacFarlane sort of had the same issue when he hosted a thing a couple of years back. And yeah, it's just one of those things where the hosts are kind of, they want to make it a standout Oscar, and then they do something, and then it just comes off as stupid and not really all that funny or all that memorable, instead of just doing a fun show. Um, so yeah, I think that's a trap that a lot of hosts end up falling into, and I think a lot of the times hosts really can sort of, excuse me, make and break the Academy Awards because they're just an Oscar night because um, they're just so synced together because the host really brings in the flow of the entire show. So if the show is not really if the show's trying too hard, it's because the host is trying too hard, and therefore the show is not that strong. Um, so yeah, but I think definitely the Oscars can be improved. I don't think they're horrible. Again, I think there's a lot of things that are enjoyable about them, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that do bother me. One being, again, the length. Another being that there's too many musical performances, and you could probably cut the time literally by half if you just decreased the amount of musical performances to maybe just two. Like if you just decreased it by two, you probably would end up with something better. Also, I think they should definitely pay more tribute to the films. We just see little snippets of the films. We don't see a huge, like, in-depth understanding of the films. Now, again, I know that they don't want to give, certain parts of the film away because, again, that's sort of spoiling it. But, it would get people invested if you showed, like, a very extensive trailer of all of the films that came out this year and then maybe had some nice background music and, you just let everything flow, and then that would be sort of your introduction to the Oscars, because that's why people watch the Oscars, is because of the movies. It's like, I don't understand why they can't, showcase the films all that more, and make people see what's so special about them and why they're being recognized. I mean, that would sell on its own, but they don't do that, and I don't understand why. And I think it would work really effectively if they did. Um, so yeah, I, and again, I like the idea of having a tribute of the people who died. Um, but do you need an extensive song with them? Like, can't you just have the nice music with their faces in the background, and that be sort of the end of it? I think that would be fine. I don't think that it needs, I don't think you need to have a song on top of it. That's something else that just can be cut, and that's not necessary. You can totally get the emotions. And again, I thought what was really kind of just sort of lame about the tribute of the people dying, or the people that passed away, was they didn't really show them acting or directing or doing anything. They didn't show them actually living. They just showed pictures of them. Why not show a little bit of how, you're supposed to be celebrating their life, I mean, it made no sense to me. So, yeah, I think having clips of them actually being alive and doing something that was sort of memorable would be a lot more effective than just showing their pictures and then having some chick come up and sing a song. I just think that that's a lot more powerful to me, seeing images of people doing something and that being sort of a part of their career. I'd rather see that than see their painted faces with their names and then see some chicks start singing about about how we're supposed to feel when it comes to these people being lost. It's like, you don't need it. So yeah, I think that was just something that I think could be scrapped. But replaced with, fond memories of those who've gone by, and in doing so, do sort of a little tribute, similar to like showcasing in the beginning all the films that are being nominated. That would be kind of important. So yeah, that's just something that I noticed. Very uh, that I thought about when I was literally watching the Oscars. I think there's a lot to enjoy about them. There's a lot to not really care for about them, but I think they can be improved upon. And I think some years are obviously better than others. I think this year was a little bit better than some years that I've seen in the past. Um, and again, I think part of that had to do because Neil Patrick Harris only tried hard one time with the underwear. But but again, it just kind of just depends on, the viewer and what they like in regards to style. But to me personally, I felt like the this the this um this Oscars of this year was was all right, but again, it could have been a whole lot better, and it could have been a whole lot worse. So yeah, it's just kind of one of those, you toss the dice a little, and then you see, what ultimately they end up bringing. And sometimes it's okay, and then other times I just roll my eyes and go, "Why would you do that?" But yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say. But again, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.